Let's talk supply chain. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk Supply Chain. So let's start with a question. Today's guest operates successfully around the world. So how much revenue did they generate in the 2023-2024 business year? Well, it has to be quite a few millions, surely, but I'm not exactly sure how many. What do you think? Let me know your guesses over on social and keep listening because I'll let you know at the end of the show. So today I'm joined by a company that combines cutting edge technology, strong partnerships, and deep expertise to help businesses turn big ideas into reality. They believe it's possible to redefine what's achievable in systems integration, warehouse automation, and logistics. So who are they? Well, it's TGW Logistics. So, TGW Logistics is a global leader in warehouse automation and warehouse logistics. With over 50 years of experience, they design, manufacture, implement, and maintain trusted end-to-end solutions, which enable their customers to run their distribution network at the highest levels of productivity. And it's Dexter Weber, Business Development Manager at TGW Logistics, that is joining me for the show. Now, Dexter has worked in the innovative technology sector for a decade, with a keen focus on the consumer goods, electronics, and industrial equipment industries. Dexter understands the challenges companies are facing with their supply chains and their need to find solutions that unlock success. So today, we're going to be talking all about TGW Logistics, what they do, the landscape of warehouse logistics, and the trends, challenges, and opportunities to look out for, building strategic partnerships that provide continuous value for customers, and why TGW are unveiling a brand new look for a brand new era. So welcome to the show, Dexter.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and chat with you today.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you here. Now, the growth that TGW has achieved is incredibly impressive. I mean, you're innovating. I think you have over 900 patents. Holy moly. You're
Yeah,
empowering your teams and your customers, and it's all just really exciting. So I'm looking forward to finding out way more about all of this in this episode. So TGW was founded over 50 years ago, and I think began as a small fitter shop in Austria, which is interesting. That's quite a journey. So, can you give us an overview of that journey and how TGW went from a local shop in the 60s to a global leader?
yeah, absolutely. I'll maybe touch on the journey and how we got there, and also a little bit to part of our ownership structure, because I think that's a key piece to our journey as well.
Awesome.
Um, so yeah, absolutely, you're right. We started. I think we're on year 56 now. Started
Wow.
a small fitter shop in Austria, and since then have become a very global company and a leader in automation. So we've been like a longtime manufacturer of mechatronic automation equipment, including being very well known for our ASRS solutions like mini loads and shuttles. But over time, we evolved, we grew, we expanded, we had some acquisitions, and we began to add additional technologies and capabilities. So that includes software, our systems integration piece, and our lifetime services. So now when you look at TGW, we have three different revenue streams. So that comes from the integration portion of the business, which is what I'm doing. We also have our equipment piece of the business where we're also working with other integrators. So we have a team dedicated for that. And then, of course, our lifetime services team, which is that ongoing support. Um, so in the systems integration group, part of what I'm in, we're doing really those end-to-end solutions to provide for automated systems. And we have hundreds of projects around the globe. And when you look at us, we also have our equipment in thousands of places, thousands of sites around the globe. And we're currently up to over 4,500 specialists from 69 different companies working for TGW. So
Huh.
quite the growth over the years. And as I mentioned, our ownership structure. So part of that journey was becoming a foundation owned company, which is kind of unique to this industry. So one of our co-founders back in 2004, I believe, he set out to change the company structure and into a foundation owned company with a mission to really focus on people learning and growing. So what does that mean? It means TGW cannot be sold And what we do is we really reinvest our profits back into our solutions, our
Huh.
capabilities, our manufacturing, and we also give back profits to charity. So when it comes to it, we're not chasing maybe quarterly goals or pleasing shareholders, but we're really focused on that long-term vision for our partners and working hand in hand with them.
I love to hear that. Now, I've been to Austria, but I think it was over 20 years ago. I visited Vienna, which is actually one of my favorite
Love it.
places, and I whitewater rafted in the
Ooh,
Austrian Alps, which was, I think the water was freezing cold. I mean, it was 20
I
years ago.
bet.
It was a lot of fun, but it was definitely very, very cold. And so it's great to hear the roots. I love hearing sort of the founder's story, how it's evolved. And I think there's even some things that we can talk about outside of this episode, especially around, philanthropy and investing back into the company and, all the different things that you're thinking about to make sure that your company and your people are taken care of, which I love to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So now you've just launched your new brand. You have a new look for a new era. Can you talk us through this new era that's to come? Like, who is TGW now? What's your vision for the company, your clients, and for the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, you're right. We relaunched our branding efforts this year, and that new branding is built upon that like foundation ownership piece where we're really talking about the entrepreneurial success for our business and personal, our social success for our people and our communities. So, really, with our new branding, it's focusing about blending two seemingly opposites together. So think of economic success and social good. Or when it applies to our solutions, we can bring you fast and accurate together, or we can do big and scalable. So we're really using the word and to talk about the different possibilities that we bring. Um, and so over the years, we've been working with a lot of companies that, are experienced in automation, and they often feel like they're treated more like a point of sale. So, once the system gets implemented, the other company kind of just walks away and leaves it on them. And sometimes they're left with solutions where it maybe was not geared towards their future growth or meeting their future needs. So what we're really focused on is trying to bring that relationship into the equation and really blending humans and technology together. So when we work with our customers, we really try to take a holistic approach to understanding them, understanding their needs, and really planning for the future. So that way we can determine like the right size system for them and the scope of the solution for their future. All of this kind of points at our new branding initiative. So you should definitely check it out on our socials or keep an eye out for some of our advertisements out there. But really what we're looking to do is just aim to grow, develop our people, develop our solutions, develop our technologies, and just build success together with our partners.
Well, I think also being forward thinking, right?
Yeah,
Which is
absolutely.
when you're going to partner with a technology and you're going to partner with somebody who needs to come in and change what you're doing from a warehouse perspective and introduce some new technology like automation. First, there has to be that trust. But
Yeah.
part of that trust comes with understanding that they understand where you're headed, what growth looks like for you, and how they can support you in that. Right. I think that that's really important to a partnership. And I love what you were saying with the right? It's
Yeah.
this and it's this and. And I think, two truths can be right at the exact same time and we can
Yeah.
have that. And I think people are starting to come to the table with that kind of mindset, right? It's no longer black, white, and maybe gray.
Yeah.
We
The
can have
either
two.
or piece. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
right. We can have two truths that live at the exact same time. And it doesn't mean that we have to be pulled in several different directions to do it. So
Mhm.
I love that. And I can't wait to check out the new branding.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so you work with some incredible big name brands, and we know you work across fashion, grocery, industrial, and consumer goods. Do you have an ideal client? Like if I'm sitting here listening to this episode, who do I need to be to pick up the phone to call you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. We work with some big names around the globe. We're empowering supply chains for companies like Urban, Gap, Fastenal, Victoria's Secret, Puma, Coop, many more. And like you said, we're in several different industries. So fashion is you've heard me list quite a few names there. Fashion's a really big presence for us. Grocery and food service, it's more of that cold chain. So you have ambient, chilled, deep freeze. We're growing pretty quick with our solutions for that. And then industrial consumer goods, that's more of my area of focus. It's a pretty wide range of different products, but yeah, we have a lot of experience across the globe with those. And sometimes it's more than just like a distribution center, which is what you typically think of for warehouse automation, but we're also in the like production or manufacturing industry as well. There's a material handling piece for like line replenishment or Kanban. So when it comes down to like an ideal client for us, we're really working with companies of all different sizes, all different industries, different scales and scopes of their projects. But what we are really looking for is a partner that wants to build like a true cohesive partnership and really collaborative, because at the end of the day, we need to really be an extension of their team and share a vision to really accomplish the goals that they set out to achieve. And being collaborative really just brings it all together and makes sure that we're both successful in the automation journey.
Hey, listen, I say collaboration is the future of business all the time. I have a sign behind me that says it. And I feel like I'm hoping that it just sort of bleeds into the industry and stays top of
Yeah.
mind for everybody. But I really think that that is an important part of, being the future of this industry. And there's a number of ways that we can collaborate. I think one of the ways moving forward into the future is really that data sharing, and we've got to
Mhm.
sort of figure that out. And I don't think anybody's necessarily figured that out. But from that, like before we get there, there has to be that trust, and you have to have that relationship with the partner. And I know that I mentioned this earlier, but it really is the foundational component to all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Building relationships and trust is the foundation of, I would say, any real good, solid business project.
Yeah, absolutely. So, talk to me about the landscape of warehouse logistics. What's happening? What are you seeing with your customers? What are some of the biggest challenges that they have right now?
Yeah, good question. So, yeah, warehouse logistics landscape is definitely changing. Where we're sitting in the automation area is an exciting time for us. We're seeing a lot of growth, especially here in the Americas. I think if you look at Europe, they're a little further ahead in automation, have been for a while, but we're seeing a lot of strong investments here in North and South America as well. And in terms of challenges, there's quite a few different challenges. So maybe I'll list a few and then kind of dive a little deeper into them if that works.
Yeah.
Um, so I think service level agreements, inventory, how can you make it lean? You have your labor or skill shortages, you have your whole supply chain network, like how is that set up? And then you have kind of different fluctuating or order profiles. So think of like, e-commerce growing versus in-store, or, you might have some peak season changes. So I guess diving a little deeper into it, that service level agreement piece, whether you're working, as a wholesaler doing B2B, or if you're doing store replenishment for your own retail stores from your distribution center, or if you're going direct to the consumer, there's a huge push for quick service and quick fulfillment. People are expecting goods to be shipped, same day or next day, typically
Mhm.
now, and, they need to receive those products quickly. And that's just part of how the supply chains evolved over time. Another challenge is kind of tied to that. It's, having leaner inventory. So costs are rising, store back rooms are getting smaller, and the way corporations are trying to focus on how are they managing their cash flow is putting pressure on store or branch locations to make sure they're optimizing the inventory on hand, because tying up that cash flow can, have quite an impact on the business.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the capital is costing a lot more these days. And so
yeah,
a lot of the conversations I've been having is how do we reduce some of those inventory levels, which obviously will reduce some of that capital, but then also manage the consumer expectation to make sure that you get that product into their hands as fast as possible, without really knowing when somebody's going to buy something. I mean, that
yeah.
I think is sort of a fundamental challenge across all retail at the moment with sort of that omni-channel approach, e-commerce, bricks and mortar, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think kind of tied into that too is that labor element. So at the retail locations, sometimes they have less labor available. So, having that leaner inventory can really help your planning with how are you making sure you're giving enough attention to your people in store and how are you fulfilling those shelves. But also in the warehouse environment too. There's some challenges that a lot of companies face with labor. I mean, there's a lot of costs going into posting job boards, recruiting, interviewing, training, and retaining the people. And, sometimes the warehouse environment can have some challenging conditions. Like in the summer, it may be really hot,
Yeah.
could be really cold. If you're working in like the grocery industry, for example, that deep freeze environment can be a little challenging to retain people. And it also requires a lot of like physical movement often. And so you're lifting heavy items and it may not be ergonomically set for people of different sizes. So it kind of limits that talent pool a little bit. So companies are currently looking at, okay, how can we do more with less and still fulfill those customer expectations?
Yeah,
Uh,
so true. I didn't even think about like we of course we talk about labor when we talk about warehousing, but I didn't really think about, and cold chain is getting its moment right now.
yeah, yeah,
But I didn't really think about the deep freeze environment. I mean, I'm sure if you're in a hot location, it might be a nice reprieve. But like all the time, I can definitely see that that could be a challenge.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And even in the hot locations too, like we've seen sites where people are walking 15 miles a day, and when
Mm,
it's hot out and you're walking that much, it can be exhausting. So I can
definitely.
totally understand why there might be some challenges in retaining some people there.
Well, and safety, and you want to make sure
Yeah,
that everybody
yeah,
who works for you is, healthy and good and
yeah.
so that comes into play, I think, as well. So you mentioned the challenges. Where are you seeing the opportunities, right? I think we know automation is going to be increasingly important in helping organizations pursue opportunities, but
Mhm.
talk to us about how automation is going to do that. So, where are the opportunities, and then how is automation going to help us?
Yeah. So I think there's some opportunities in improving your fulfillment speeds, right? Talking about that short SLA, how can you be quick? And it also plays into that leaner inventory piece, right? So automation really at its core is all about process improvements. The goal is you're eliminating multiple non-value added manual touches,
Mhm.
boosting those speeds anywhere from storage, fulfillment, packaging, and then all the way to outbound. There's a lot of processes in there, all of which automation can support, and you can take, those manual efforts that may take hours to pick orders, or sometimes even like a day or two, and now you can move it up to minutes.
Mhm.
So I think there's an opportunity there. Back in that leaner retail piece, one thing automation can support is, doing more quick, smaller deliveries to your store or branch locations.
Hmm.
And by having the smaller shipments more frequently, it helps with the cash flow at the store level quite a bit, makes it easier for the labor at the store level. And you can really get what you need as opposed to maybe ordering too much and then trying to find out where to put it, or maybe you're ordering something that's a slower moving item that you need to have, but now you
Right.
have too many in your back room. So automation, by doing one piece to each place can really end up helping save costs in that leaner inventory piece.
Well, and I
And
think just a note on that, but before you go on, I think from a distribution center perspective, right, you don't want to have too much of one thing in one location.
yeah,
And so I think that that is a really great opportunity to be able to distribute it fast, but appropriately.
yeah,
Because you could have three orders in one store, one order in the other, but that store has all four, and that store doesn't have any.
yeah,
And I remember being in a store, and they're like, "Well, we can order it from that store for you, and you're gonna have to come back in 3 days." And sometimes you don't live there. Like if I'm visiting
yeah,
somewhere and they don't have it on hand, I'm like, I can't do that because that
yeah,
just doesn't work for me. So.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a great example to put in there. And then, yeah, tying back into that labor piece, automation can help with some of the physical challenges that you have in the labor area. So kind of like that deep freeze environment we were talking about, that can be automated, or that long walking, 15 plus miles a day. Now you can remove that piece and the goods can come to the person. That heavy lifting and ergonomics, that's often a piece for turnover or injury. And what we see a lot of times is that's a key driver and ROI for automation is just really eliminating those issues. So now with automation, companies can not only improve their processes, make it a more friendly work environment to work with the people. It also can help open up your labor pool. So when you have heavier items that are automated, now you have a bigger labor pool that can be lifting and carrying some of those things through the automation equipment, as opposed to trying to like build pallets on their own and doing a lot of like, straining physical work.
Well, and question for you on the automation. So when you talk about automation, are we talking about robots? Like what exactly, give me your definition of automation, just so we know where you're going with that. Because I'm kind of
Yeah.
thinking about the deep freeze environment
Yeah.
and, a robot. If we're talking about robotics and there's a robot in there, how do
Yeah.
they fare in deep freeze? And I'm assuming you can create a robot that can handle that kind of environment.
Yeah.
But talk to us a little bit about what you mean by automation when we're talking about the opportunities in automation. And I'm
Yeah.
sure it's a mix of a few things.
Yeah, it's definitely a mix of technologies. So robotics is a big piece. And so I think people often think of mobile robotics. That's a huge piece of our portfolio, of course. But there's robots that can, build pallets or, palletize items, or it can depalletize, or, we have our storage and retrieval systems. Those are big in like the deep freeze environment, being able to, use conveyor or robotics to bring items to an area, and then it brings it, stores it for you. And as the order is needed, it comes out. And then, of course, there's conveyor, which can move a lot of high volume goods around a warehouse environment. So it's combining several different technologies together, but all of which is meant to move the material and take that heavy lifting work out of it. So robotics is definitely a huge piece of it, but it's conveyor, it's ASRS, which is automatic storage and retrieval systems. It's robotic equipment, and of course mobile robotics is a big piece to it.
Well, and I think you have a large range of products, and I think
Yeah.
we're only sort of hitting on a few right now. So I highly recommend that the listeners go and check it out after the show, because I'm not sure we're going to get to every single bit of it.
Yeah.
But let's focus on the warehouse automation technologies that you just mentioned.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about what they do, how they're helping your customers achieve smarter, more efficient intralogistics? And I would assume that's sort of like in their facility.
Yeah, absolutely. I think usually just getting started, the way we work, at least out of our US team, is we have kind of experts that are, in different areas. Like I mentioned, fashion, we have consultants in 3PLs, grocery, and then we have the industrial and consumer goods. What that allows us to do is really understand those industries a lot better. What are their typical supply chain setups look like? What are some common challenges? And then with that, we can build our relationships, and then we kind of customize solutions. And a lot of times we have like standard systems, but they're tailored towards each company based on their needs. So diving into more of like that technology piece, we try to look at it from each process in the warehouse, from receiving to outbound. So when you look at the receiving piece, we have some technology that we call our one touch or zero touch receiving system. And basically it's taking the goods off of the truck, bringing them inbound. You can do your quality control, moves into reserve storage, and then it removes into more of a replenishment system. And typically what this does is it removes 7 to 8 manual touches and moves it down to just one, or sometimes even zero.
Wow.
And then from there, you look at more of the storage and fulfillment process. Obviously, a key portion of a distribution center. So speaking systems, we have a couple of them, and I'll just highlight maybe 2 of those. But Flash Pick is one we're probably most known for. This is a split case picking system made to be like order profile agnostic. So if it's wholesale, retail, replenishment, or e-commerce, it's designed to do high throughput for any order profile, and you can bring an order to life in just 10 minutes.
Wow.
Basically, what it does is it ties to storage retrieval using our shuttle systems. You can go in decanting, so removing some of those items, and then it brings it to our high performance one-to-one like discrete picking areas. So we have these picking stations where operators can quickly pick orders and fulfill orders up to like 700 per hour order lines per hour that they're typically doing
Wow.
on those systems. So that can really ease some of those processes. And then looking more at a full case scenario, we have a solution called full pick. And that's similar. What it's doing is more full cases. It also has the option for split case picking, but it includes processes like pallet storage, depalletizing because you're often doing mixed case pallets going to your store
Yep.
locations. It does the sequencing, and it's used a lot for wholesale or store replenishment, or sometimes in the more like industrial or DIY groups where they have a lot of like case quantities or bigger items required.
Yeah.
Um,
That's cool. And those are some pretty cool numbers. I mean, 10 minutes and 700 an
yeah,
hour, I think you said.
yeah,
That's a lot. I mean, that just with those numbers alone, I think a lot of people who are listening to this can sort of see the efficiency and what that can really do to help support the human capital and the people on your teams who are doing some of this work. Um, and I love that. I think it's great that you're using the numbers because it really helps us to see. Now, I want to ask you about the warehouse management software that sort of sits behind those products because modern warehousing relies on those systems and it kind of connects everything. It helps with exceptions management, visibility, inventory tracking, but also with real time decisions. Kind of everything that you need, right, to create an optimal fulfillment process will come from a WMS. So talk to us about the software, your partnerships, how that tech pulls everything together behind the scenes.
yeah, absolutely. You're right. Like the WMS is really kind of the backbone of your warehouse operations. So we have something called Works, WERX. That's our software suite. And we kind of consider that to be more of the conductor of the warehouse, right? So it offers different key products tailored to meet the needs of our distinct challenges for our customers. But when you think of it like a symphony, like each piece kind of has to play its part and it seamlessly kind of works together. So
Kind of a magic wand. I hope it has a conductor hat. I mean, I don't know how you branded it, and I know you just went through some branding, and maybe I'm a little too late. But
maybe something we can still add to there. But yeah, basically it's meant to do everything from outbound. So we can be kind of that WMS piece, or we can tie into your existing WMS, and then our software acts more as like the warehouse control system or the warehouse execution system, and it's just controlling the automation technology to make sure everything's in the right place at the right time, and so it's a smooth operation. And we have I think more than 750 digital experts at TGW that are really
that's
focused on our software to make sure that everything runs smooth for people. So it's
that's a
a huge
lot.
piece of what we do.
Yeah, yeah, that's a lot of people. Now, to support both physical equipment and software, I think you also offer a range of support services. What does that look like? What are those support services, and how does that help sort of build that strategic bond or partnership that we talked about with your customers?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, it's called our lifetime services, or we call it LTS sometimes for short. And they offer like a wide range of different options. So whether you need remote services and you have your own kind of engineering team on site to do those maintenance pieces, or if you want a full staff on site 24/7 to manage your spare parts, maintenance, training, performance reporting, our team really sets like a great gold standard when it comes to taking care of our partners after they've implemented automation. We understand that this is a big investment for you and you really want to maximize it. And with that, I think that strategic bond piece that you mentioned really comes out of our dedicated teams and their level of communication and just really focus on building and maintaining those relationships. So that collaboration piece we keep coming back to, right? And for example, I just went to one of our customer sites called Jasco,
Hmm.
and we have our lifetime services team on site, and they're working with the customer's operations team, each day to make sure everything is running efficient and the systems are performing well. And
Huh.
it's a great success story for us, and they're very happy with us. And then when you look at kind of some of their goals from an operational perspective, you mentioned some short and long term success, right?
Yeah.
So short term, we're often looking at how is the system performing, and we have it backed by our uptime guarantee of 98% or greater. So that's a big piece to it. We also think short term of what does your peak season look like, and
Mm.
is our system, doing what it's designed to do, and how well are we supporting your team with this operation? And we do some performance testing and ramp up leading into peak season, and then we have our virtual team available 24/7 during those challenging times of the year
Huh.
because the success of our customers and putting smiles on their customers' faces is important to us. And then when we look at the long-term picture, we're also focused on, what does their whole supply chain network look like? What does the performance look like? What's the big picture? What are their long-term goals? And then we often are doing multi-site rollouts to help support their network. So they might be automating across several distribution centers, or they might do retrofit or modernization projects that we can recommend, as you're growing, here's what we can add on to your system to make sure that you're achieving your future goals and you're set up, to expand as your customer base grows.
Well, and I can just from those examples, I can see very clearly how your solutions help companies to invest and flex at their own pace. And the reason why I say that is because your support services really showcase how dedicated you are, right? And you're in there with the customer going over what's working, what's not working on a regular basis. And I think that's the key to long-term growth and long-term partnership is in the fact that they can come in or you can come in, sit with the customer on a variety of different times, right? Depending on
Yeah,
what the customer needs, whether they have peak season, that kind of thing. And then you can also talk about long term, but you're monitoring it on a regular basis. And
yeah,
so that's really great to see. And that's really how you're going to help them flex at their own pace.
yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So we're getting to the one of my favorite parts of the conversation. You did just give us some really good examples, but do you have another example that you can give us? Because you've got some great case studies on your website. So paint us a picture of how you worked with a client, what solution they used, and what was the ROI and benefit they saw from partnering with you.
Yeah, we obviously have a few customers we can talk about, but one of our most common reference sites we use here is for the Urban Group. So that's Urban Outfitters,
Yeah.
Anthropology, New Leaf Free People, awesome company. And we built a large like multi-channel centralized site for them in the Kansas City area. And so that relationship started with our UK teams working together, but we really built a strong relationship with our US team, and they brought a great team to the table with lots of knowledge. There was lots of open collaboration with us, and we built a very impressive site that went live back in I think autumn of 2023. So
Huh.
for them, kind of more of their backgrounds, they were challenged with some things like obviously labor scarcity was a piece to it. They were growing rapidly. They have some fluctuations throughout the year of their sales channels versus in store on versus online. Um, they were trying to minimize like investments into distribution centers because they had some nodes on the East Coast and the West Coast, but
Mhm.
really needed like a powerhouse in the center of the U.S. to make sure they were, meeting those tight shipping windows and
Yeah.
really doing the best to service their stores and their customers. They needed quick store replenishment with that. And then they're also, handling multiple brands, each with their own packaging, each with their own value added service requirements, and they wanted to do that in one fulfillment center. So with the solution, yeah, they have some inbound with manual decanting. It goes into a storage into our shuttle systems. And then that flash pick system that I talked about earlier is where they found their success. So they're using 18 shuttle aisles and 48 Center 1 station. So that's that high speed one-to-one discrete picking station. So the volume that they can put out of there is quite impressive. And then they're using, automated cartons, carton lidding, bagging, labeling machines, and then they have seating stations for those like value added processes that
Huh.
they're doing. So end result for them, they have 650,000 storage locations. They're managing 125,000 SKUs, and they're
Woo.
able to handle more than 300,000 order lines per day during peak season.
What?
It's impressive, yeah, and they're able to fulfill a huge portion of their e-commerce and store replenishment orders out of there. And then, like I said, that quick shipping, 10 to 15 minutes, that order is ready for them. And with it, they were able to achieve a really strong cost per unit, the best in their network. Um, and I think it was even close to like half of the cost per unit for managing compared to their network. And they're
Wow.
able to flexibly manage all those different brands with a variety of automated packaging options. Their peak performance, like I mentioned, really strong. They actually had their best season ever this last year. And even though there were a couple little hiccups on the way, our lifetime services team was there to be supportive and make sure we're addressing those quickly. And then, yeah, they were able to, cut their training times significantly due to having the automated equipment, and they were able to operate more effectively with less labor requirements. And then when comes to the ROI, we estimated around 4 years, but it actually looks like it's coming earlier than that. So, it's a great success story and a great company and just such an impressive facility to step into.
Yeah, that is those numbers are pretty impressive. And we talked about capital a little bit earlier and what it's costing us right now. And so that cost per unit is huge, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes we focus on ROI being, bottom line cost, et cetera, but also the number of hours in training and things like that to be able to retain some of those team members and things like that. Super huge. So I love that you shared that story and it's just like those kind of numbers are impressive. I think you said 300,000 in one day. I mean, out of Kansas City. That's incredible. Anyways, so what's to come? I mean, TGW is at the heart of innovation in the warehouse logistics sector. So, what do you have your eye on? Are there any upcoming trends or tech we should be looking out for?
Yeah, obviously, I'm a huge fan of technology, geek to be in this industry, but yeah, I think there's a few things that I think are going to be growing over the next few years. So, one is mobile robotics. We're seeing some pretty strong growth with our mobile robotic programs. We partner with a company called SafeLog, and our teams work strongly together. And we make flexible, adaptable, easily scalable, and customizable solutions. And I think mobile robots are great because, yeah, they are easy to scale and implement, and they provide a pretty great return on investment when you're looking at them. And they pair great also with fixed automation. So,
Hmm.
people often think, oh, it's fixed or mobile, but really you can get a lot of different unique, features out of both. And we look at it to see how can we make a great system. So I think you're going to see a lot more growth in the mobile robotics category. Another super kind of trending one right now is robotic picking.
Hmm.
Um, I think you're going to see this starting to grow in the market more as well. We're starting to see more demands with our own systems, right? And the great thing about robotic picking is when you're running it 24/7, you can get a solid return on investment on that. It can be very consistent, and then it uses AI to really self-learn as it's picking, so it can remain constant and adapt to different items. And it removes that manual error piece that you know you can sometimes have with the human. So I think that will be interesting to see how that develops in the next few years.
Well, and I
Um,
think the ROI part of that, and going back to your example with the urban um, set of companies, was your ROI was that you projected it would take 4 years, and it's actually taking a lot less than that. And so, if we're thinking in terms of ROI and we're conservative in our numbers, but you're actually going to be hitting that ROI number even earlier, like a year or so earlier, I mean, that's huge to a lot of organizations.
Yeah, and there's a lot of softer costs, right, that you get benefits out of automation that aren't always easy to quantify. And I think
True.
that's where some of those things come in as well. Um, but yeah, I also see another area where you might get some ROI with palletizing robotics.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone who's worked in a warehouse knows that palletizing can often be a bottleneck. It's a challenge. There's heavy lifting. How do you put the heavier items on bottom and sequence them appropriately? And so whether it's semi-automated or fully automated palletizing, we're seeing some really strong growth with our customer base on that. Being able to use technology to and software to sequence each product where it needs to go on the pallet,
Mm-hmm.
in order and build the optimal really pallet. We're seeing a lot of growth and implementation in this area, and I think there's going to be more of that to come.
Well, and think about the partnerships with the carriers. The carriers are going to love that because now they know that the pallets are packed properly from a weight perspective, right? I mean, we've kind of been we rely on or carriers and drivers rely on those that they pick up the orders from to have packed the pallet properly. And we've
Yeah,
all seen results of when that doesn't happen, and that is definitely a safety concern. And just think about the
yeah,
conversations that you can have with a carrier partner when you're doing something like that and the trust that you can establish through that as well. So that has ongoing effects and ripple effects throughout the industry. So I think that's so exciting. Now, space constraints, cost, efficiency, sustainability, labor, 2025 continues to throw challenges at the industry, and strategic warehousing solutions are going to matter more than ever. So, TGW is the partner you need. They are shaping the future of warehouse automation and logistics by engineering everything in house, from software to robotics to mechatronic modules. I hope I said that right. And they
yeah.
can deliver seamless integration and unparalleled performance. They dare to go beyond what's possible today, pushing boundaries with pioneering technologies that set new standards for efficiency, scalability, and reliability in automated warehouse fulfillment. So, did you have a guess at today's big question? Well, at the top of the show, I asked you how much revenue did TGW generate in the 2023-2024 business year? Well, it was a huge $1.17 billion, with most profits reinvested into fueling innovation, employee growth, and cutting edge technology. Wow. I mean, gotta hand it to you. Congratulations on that. If you want to find out more, you can kind of head over to tgw-group.com/US. And a massive thanks to the team at TGW for making this happen. And Dexter, thanks so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I was excited to be able to chat with everyone, or chat with you and introduce more people to TGW and what we can do for them.
Awesome.